Is it good to go?
Good to go.
Okay, good morning, everyone. We're going to call this meeting of the TRPA Legal Committee to order. It is Wednesday, December 13th, and it is 8:32. First item on the agenda is roll call to determine quorum. Catherine, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Faustinos?
Here.
Mr. Rice?
Here.
Ms. Loomer? Mayor Bagwell?
Here.
Ms. Williamson?
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. For the members of the public who are joining us remotely, to observe this meeting, go to trpa.gov under the calendar header, click on Governing Board Hybrid Meeting for December 13th. You will find the link to the public meeting hosted by Zoom. To address committee members, please click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. I don't think we have any remote committee members, so I'm going to skip that. Members of the public who have joined us in person, please raise your hand at the appropriate time and you can be called on to speak. All right, next item is, and those of you in the room, just wave your hands at me, you can always get my attention. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Mr. Marshall, any changes?
No.
Thank you.
Move the agenda be approved as presented.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Agenda item 2, approval of the minutes. We have a draft set of minutes from October 25th on page 13 of your packets. Does anyone wish to make a change? Only looking your way to see if Shelley sent in any changes.
She did not, and I had a meeting with her, so we're good.
Anyone else? Okay, move approval. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. We're now on to agenda item 3, which is the resolution of enforcement action. This is Greenleaf Ventures CA LLC, unauthorized disturbance to SEZ, failure to install and maintain construction BMPs and material damage to trees, 1650 Iroquois Circle, El Dorado County, CA, assessor parcel number 034171003 and 1654 Iroquois Circle, El Dorado County, CA, assessor parcel number 034171002. Information on this item can be found on page 199 of your packets. As a reminder to the public, after board discussion on this item, you may raise your hand to be called on to share your comments. I'd like to pass it over to Mr. Sweet to present.
Thank you. So this violation, this is the Greenleaf Ventures California LLC violation. It involves unauthorized disturbance to an SEZ, failure to install and maintain construction BMPs, and material damage to trees. The violations all occurred on the Greenleaf properties located at 1650 and 1654 Iroquois Circle in El Dorado County. Can you go to the next slide, please? Here's an overview of the property. You can see it's just south of the airport and off the Pioneer Trail area and near Myers. And then here's a close-up of the 2 properties that we'll be discussing. And these properties slope downhill, and the area where the green circle is the area of disturbance that we'll be talking about. Short description: in July 2023, TRPA staff and El Dorado County Building Department inspected the Greenleaf properties to investigate some temporary BMP issues. During that inspection, TRPA staff discovered that unauthorized construction access was used between the 2 properties, and a large amount of disturbance occurred to the stream environment zone between those 2 properties, and then also several trees had been damaged by equipment. After further investigation, TRPA also determined that that proper proper construction BMPs had not been installed or maintained, allowing these trees to be damaged and allowing them to go through areas outside the construction zone. And let's go to some pictures. Here's some pictures of the area. This is down at the bottom of the properties, and you can see how they have disturbed and kind of damaged some of the trees around there. A lot of ground disturbance in that area. And then next slide. And then this is looking back up from the bottom of the property again, but looking back up, and the area to the left, where you see the fencing, the orange fencing, right below that is where they came through and just totally disturbed the SEZ. These activities, these unauthorized activities, you can go ahead and go to the next slide, occurred in violation of 5 different code sections. TRP or code section 2.31, It was disturbance to an SEZ, which is not exempt and requires authorization from TRPA. Section 33.6. It was, involves tree protection fencing not being installed properly. 36.2, areas outside the construction area were disturbed without authorization or approval. 60.4, temporary BMPs not being installed correctly. And section 61.1.5, which is material damage to 7 trees that were on site. So Greenleaf has taken full responsibility for these unauthorized activities and has agreed to a settlement where they will pay a penalty of $25,000 to TRPA and restore all disturbed areas and maintain all proper construction BMPs in the future. Greenleaf has been cooperative throughout the settlement process and has completed the restoration, has already completed the restoration, which we'll be monitoring over the next building season to make sure the vegetation is maintained and established. Staff is recommending that the governing board approve the proposed settlement agreement.
Thanks, Steve. Is there a representative from Greenleaf Ventures who would like to make a statement?
They could not make it today, so they're, yeah.
Okay. Let's go to public comment on this item. Anyone in the room wishing to make comment? And is there anyone online wishing to make comment?
There's one member of the public online. If you'd like to comment on this item, please raise your hand in Zoom by clicking the raise hand button under reactions in your Zoom account. There are no hands raised to comment on this item.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the committee?
It's great work.
All right. Good comments. I agree. Okay, at this point then I will entertain a motion on this item. And just, sorry, a quick note, an affirmative vote of a majority of the quorum is required.
So I'll make the motion to recommend that the governing board approve the settlement agreement.
And do we need, can I voice vote this or do we need to roll call it?
You can voice vote.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thanks so much. Motion
Thank you.
passes. Okay, next we are going on to discussion and recommendation on general counsel performance review and 23-24 salary increase. This is agenda item 4. This is a discussion and recommendation on our wonderful and talented general counsel's performance review. This is on page 393 of our packets. I'd like to pass this over to Angela to present.
Okay, good morning. Thank you. Angela, actually, Director of Human Resources for the record. I'm here to present the results of Mr. Marshall's performance review for the time period of July 2022 to June 2023. Mr. Marshall wrote a self-assessment of his accomplishments for that time frame, and these were emailed to a select group of TRPA employees and all of the governing board members. In that email was also included a link to a confidential anonymous survey, and everyone was asked to kind of rank him on his overall accomplishments of that self-assessment that he wrote, as well as the TRPA's core competencies. Included in attachment B with the staff summary report is those results, and you can see here we had roughly 7 governing board members that responded and 22 TRPA staff for a total of 29 respondents. Of those 29 respondents, they marked Mr. Marshall exceptional for 47% of the overall accomplishments and fully effective achieved for 37% of all of those responses. And then we delved into the different questions and the rankings in terms of the core competencies. I don't know if you want me to go through each specific one. There were also 3 open-ended questions that allowed people to write comments based on the core competencies, those results that might have stood out from the past year, as well as any recommendations for the next 1 to 2 years. And those were summarized in that part of that staff summary report, attachment B. But just some of the overall themes were that they appreciate John providing specific hours for staff to meet with him and talk about whatever issues they might have been having, appreciating the direct communication, that he's good at working with staff to bring the code and rules of procedure to life so that they understand it. He had deft handling of legal issues and guidance of staff and decision makers, provides exceptional service as a general counsel, and knows the law and TRPA very well. In terms of those results that stood out from the year, those themes again were positive, crediting him with being available to staff and board members alike for review and guidance, providing unwavering support, drawing the board into the right conversations. And then in terms of suggestions for the next 1 or 2 years, similar to like last year, keep up the good work and hire another attorney, right? Because you need some additional staff, impart knowledge to others. And then of course, there was one on increased focus on enforcement. Overall, it was a very positive review, and staff is requesting that there's a consideration of a proposed base pay adjustment to his pay for his performance throughout this time period.
Great, thanks, Angela. We will now go to public comment on this item. Members of the public in person, anyone online wishing to comment on this item, please click the raise hand button on the bottom of your screen.
There are no hands raised to comment on this item.
Okay, well, I just want to comment, John, thank you so much for your hard work. And I echo all of the positive comments we got back. You're always available. You're always calm. You provide great leadership and direction and legal advice, most importantly. So thank you for that. And I didn't know if you wanted to say something at this time or not.
Yeah, just a kind of my own quick assessment of the year and then some self-reflection. I think, we've had an increase to some degree in litigation over the last year, but we've been able to resolve some of those successfully and others are pending. So I think we're doing a pretty good job with our coordination with our outside counsel and getting our positions in front of the court and for the most part prevailing. This last year did have, some in the Harash litigation, some concerning decisions regarding litigation that we're monitoring and we're having to kind of think strategically about out into the future. And then kind of the other major part of the job is staff and governing board advice and consultation. And I think that's where, it's been a bit, as much as we've gotten good reviews, I think it's been rockier than in years past. And in part, I think it's because of, and I think this was reflected by at least one comment in the, kind of what I take as constructive criticism in the report. We are, I think, in a period of just a little bit of disjointedness. And that's reflected, I think, in part of our greatest challenge as a staff, and for me, is our partnerships and external partnerships in particular. And while Ellie and I get along well, I think, we've had some challenges with some of our partners, and that's always a two-way street. And so we need to reflect a bit on how we can improve over the next year on how to communicate, how to effectively communicate. And I think kind of our ways of approaching those kind of partnerships in the past needs to be reassessed for success in the future. So that's where I want to kind of focus some of my energies on looking forward to next year and trying to figure out how to improve the agency's performance and my personal capabilities. There was one comment on the reviews that was, I think, concerning, and that's whether or not, and I don't know if there was some reference to it in the
Is in the written materials.
summary.
Mhm.
And that was about the type and quality of information provided to the governing board. And how, whether or not, I think you all have the ability to rely on me and staff to provide you with the information that you need in a straightforward manner. You don't get all the information. You get, what to some degree, what we provide you, so you're not overwhelmed. And if we're not hitting that right balance on providing you with the right amount of information, the right type, that's where we need feedback. And so, would very much like to make sure that you feel comfortable providing me with that kind of feedback, either in private or in some other context. So those are my comments.
Thank you so much for that, John. It's introspective and appreciated, and I think better communication is a lesson all of us can take for 2024. Any other discussion from the committee?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Just in general, a question. Reading through this packet, I saw that it's a standard for a 4% increase. Are there salary maximums, or does the scale just move 4%?
That was what the average was for all staff for this year. It changes it can change. Last year was a little different.
So that there's not a fixed salary schedule.
There is
that
a
you're
range.
within.
There is a range that yes, there is a fixed range.
So this is still within the range.
That is
it's not
still
moving
within the range.
Okay,
That is
thank you.
correct, yeah.
And is that a follow-up question? Is that on top of a cost of living increase, or is that,
We don't have cost
you
of
don't
living
have to do cost of
increases.
living? See, that's,
Yeah, that's
So-
why I asked if it was
so
a
just for the
moving.
record.
A moving range or a.
Keeping
right.
esteemed staff that, is
Yeah.
so well qualified, and, you have the issues of, salary ranges, but then, cost of living is obviously
Mhm.
a concern for, at all levels. And I just want to take a moment to just acknowledge, John, I really think that you have the temperament, in working with the board that is just so appreciated, that frankly, I feel that you are, I think, very precise in the way that you give us feedback. And that helps because, sometimes it's kind of like, what? All over the place. I mean, work with many staff councils and you're never quite sure, that you're getting specific advice. So I appreciate that you are very helpful in that.
an encyclopedic knowledge of the code.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And correct me if I'm wrong, John, but you also don't get PERS, right? Or
We're not part of PERS, but we do have defined contribution.
But that's like roughly 50% of what the state of Nevada gets.
Yeah.
Mhm.
so. I wish we could fix that too. Outside of my pay grade. All right, so with that, if there are no other comments, please, Mr. West, Mr. Rice.
It's been a pleasure. We've worked together now for what, 5 years?
As long as you've been on the board.
5 years.
Okay.
Always been able to rely on his counsel. And he's never steered me, that I'm aware of, he's never steered me down the wrong path. And I look forward to the next 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, now I have to say something too. I feel like, yeah,
Yeah, but it seems like 3 years.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
I do so appreciate how much time you've spent, onboarding me and answering any questions that I have. You're super responsive and available, and yeah, I expect that to continue 24/7 going forward.
I don't know about 20.
Yeah.
Consider 40%.
All right, well, thank you all. At this point, I will entertain a motion.
Just move approval of the pay increase, and do we have to say anything about the performance report?
It's a I'm sorry, but it's a recommendation.
Recommendation. Okay, that the governing board, yeah, take action.
Okay, and
Second.
thank you. And Catherine, can you please roll call?
Mr. Rice,
Aye.
Ms. Loomer,
I,
Mayor Bagwell,
Yes.
Ms. Faustina.
Yes.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes,
Madam Chair, that motion passes.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is where John earns his paycheck, which is our closed session with council to discuss potential litigation. So we have to go into closed session
Will somebody just grab me for public comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh, we always do ours
I need a
after
motion.
we close and.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I need a motion to go into closed session.
Yes. Move to go into closed session.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, we are now on agenda item 5, which I'm gonna pass over to John Marshall. Any potential direction?
No.
Thank you. Okay, next agenda item. I'm sorry, that was agenda item 6 regarding agenda item 5. Now we're on agenda item 7, which is committee member comments. Do any of our committee members have comments this morning? Okay. That brings us to agenda item 8, which is our final item of this morning's meeting. It's public interest comments. Ellie, would you like to say anything at this time?
Yes, Ellie Waller, I'm a Douglas County resident. I'm a Douglas County resident. Yesterday I attended my planning commission hearing and we had an update on future projects. And I asked about the Douglas County area plan process, and my concern is the Barton hole in the ground and the protections it's going to need, because I'm sure that area plan isn't going to be ready to be reviewed, and the height increases and the zoning change to allow Barton there until that time. So I'm just concerned about the protections. I didn't know how to frame this to ask Steve. Would have been nice if he was here, but that's why I'm here today, just to get, oh, there you are. I didn't see you. Now that so I just didn't know how to frame this just for protection of such a large piece of property and any kind of environmental issues that might come up.
Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you.
And is anyone online that wishes to make a comment at this time? If so, please raise your hand at the bottom of your Zoom screen or dial *9 on your phone.
Madam Chair, there are no hands raised to comment.
Okay, with that, then we'll close public comment and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We're adjourned at 9:14.
Okay.
And we have Transportation Committee and subsequent meetings back in the main boardroom.